Hello everyone, my name's Daniel Conyers and this is going to be my take on The Mummy. Just as a heads up, there are going to be some spoilers in this video. Personally, I don't think spoilers ruin a story if it's told well, especially a movie like this where based on, a lot of characters are based off some classic literary works like Jekyll and Hyde, Frankenstein, Dracula for the future movies. These works have been around for a very long time, and you can read them today, and even though you know what's going to happen, even though you know the characters and the twists and the themes, they're still captivating, they're still interesting. So, but if you are one of those who don't like spoilers, then I would suggest watching this video after you've seen the movie. Also, as a side note, I'm a little biased when it comes to horror, the horror genre. Most of my writings are in horror. I read horror, I watch horror, I love the genre, I'm very passionate about it. So you can only guess my excitement for a shared horror monster universe. My loins craved for this movie. And after watching it, I was left with some blue balls. So, without further ado, this is going to be The Mummy, the good, the bad, and what I would have done. The good. The Mummy. Her presence alone invokes fear and unsettling creepiness. And she manages to do this all without really speaking above a whisper. That's a big that's a big feat and a big accomplishment. She's really awesome. And I love that the movie took the time to give the Mummy a chance to make her case. You got to hear her story from her mouth, and you got to hear why she did everything and why she thinks she's doing the right thing. Every villain is the hero of their own story, and I think they did a really good job making the monster complex, making her more than just this kind of oogie boogie, mummy wrapped in toilet paper. She was really cool. And then we've got Dr. Jekyll, who then turns into Mr. Hyde. I thought Russell Crowe did a good job, and I thought their take on Jekyll and Hyde was pretty neat. I liked that Jekyll doesn't really turn into Hyde. More like he's suppressing Hyde, which is very relevant to the original book, where at one point Jekyll does realize that he doesn't need the formula to turn into Hyde, and that creates a lot of tension with the character. And I like that they took that approach with this character in the movie. Russell Crowe has this, as Jekyll, he's this upper class Liverpool accent, and then he's got, as Hyde, this kind of Cockney, kind of dickish attitude, very thug life in England, attitude about him. Liked him. Liked Jekyll, liked Hyde, liked Russell Crowe. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the future movies. And that's kind of it. I mean, there's action, which is, and there's comedy, using that word in a loose term. The pacing, there's Tom Cruise. So that's the good. The bad. This movie didn't know what it wanted. It had so many genres in it, it didn't know what it wanted to be. At one point it was horror. Boo. Ah. Then it was action. Brr. Then it was a romance. Oh, Nick, you did actually last longer than 15 seconds. And then it was comedy. Aha. And then this guy wanted to find this guy, and then this guy wanted to kind of love her, and then this one kind of then says, like, oh, where are you sticking that thing? And then it was going, and then it just becomes a big old mess. 2 genres in a film is fine. Anything more than that, I don't care how skilled a writer, director you are, it's gonna get messy. Each genre just becomes unsatisfied, unfulfilled, and all you get is a big old pair of blue balls, and nobody's happy. The characters. We got Tom Cruise. Sweet Tom, he does his best. He tries. The problem isn't really Tom Cruise. The problem is his character, Nick. We've seen him before. Sure, he arcs, but it's a typical. He starts the movie as a dick. He ends the movie making a self-sacrifice, so now we don't think he's a dick anymore. And that's it. It's kind of boring. We've seen him before. It's nothing. And then you got Jennifer. Jennifer's the love interest. She starts the movie off as an archaeologist, Egyptologist. I'm not really sure. But the only thing she does is her whole story, her whole focus revolves around Tom Cruise. Sorry, feminism, you're going to have to take a big blow on this one. Because she doesn't do anything other than that, scream, and kind of run around a lot. And then you've got Corporal Vale, not quite sure what his rank is. He's the kind of funny-ish sidekick to Tom Cruise. The problem with this guy is he's completely pointless. His only role in the movie is to kind of act as a guide to Tom Cruise throughout the movie, like at certain points in the movie where he's got to guide him to where the mummy wants him to be. But the writers shot themselves in the foot with this one because part of the curse that Nick is under is he shares a special link with the mummy. That's actually kind of cool because this link makes him think he's running away, but then he's really coming back. So no matter what he does, he constantly comes back to her. Plus, they share a mental connection as well, which is how Tom Cruise can suddenly speak ancient Egyptian in the movie. So, if he has a mental connection with the mummy, if he always seems to find his way to the mummy subconsciously, if he can even see where the mummy is at some points in the movie, then what on earth do you need this character for? He doesn't do anything, and he's kind of boring. Last, the humor. It's forced, it's fake, it's annoying. A lot of times the scenes feel like they're there just as a gag. The biggest one off the top of my head is where the van is wrecked, the mummy is approaching, Tom Cruise is going to the mummy with a big old stick. Jennifer, of course, says kick her ass, which is weird. It's counter to her character given that scenes prior she's telling Tom Cruise how this is her life's work and now she's rooting for him to beat her up. Makes no sense. But then the mummy backhands Tom Cruise. It's kind of funny, but completely fake, and the scene really didn't need to be there. So that's the bad. Alright, here's what I would have done. Step 1. Pick a genre. From a marketing standpoint, I get what they did. You want it to be horror. It's the mummy. You're calling it the Dark Monsterverse. Gotta be horror. The problem is, even though the horror audience is devout, they're small relative to the cost of the movie. So in order to make up that gap and gain a profit, you're going to need to bring in more people. In order to do that, you need it to be in a genre that's going to generate more money. Genre, it's going to be action, adventure, sometimes comedy, things like that. The problem that this movie did was it did way too much. So, keep it tight. Action, horror. Action being the primary genre, horror being the secondary. Think World War Z. That's action horror, and they blended it really well. For this movie, have it be action, but use the horror element not just for the monsters or the scares, but for its structure. In particular, one of the beautiful things about the horror genre is it borders tragedy. At the very end of the movie, Nick makes the self-sacrifice in order to save Jennifer. In horror, one of its structural elements is the innocent suffer. Think any drug-free virgin in Friday the 13th movies or Nightmare on Elm Street. Think the innocent child in family in any kind of exorcism movie like The Exorcist or Conjuring, the innocent suffer. The lessons learned are learned through fear and suffering and ultimately tragedy. That's what needed to happen here. Nick makes his arc by sacrificing a bit of himself in order to save Jennifer, but maybe it's just too late. Maybe the one solution he thinks he can have, the one thing he thinks he can solve all his problems, just doesn't work because life ain't that simple. There isn't just one thing you can do to solve all your problems. And that arc, he learns a lesson, but he has to turn into a monster in order to learn that. And actually turn him into a monster. Don't just turn him into Tom Cruise with some makeup on. Show the darkness manifests itself physically, and he turns into this hideous thing, and that good is buried deep. And he either runs away to be a monster to be hunted, or Prodigium cages him where he's left there to stew over the consequences of his choices. That's horror. It's dark, but that's interesting, and it shows a lot about his character, and it puts his character through some interesting obstacles. There is no happily ever after. The problem in this movie is everybody kind of wins. No one really suffers. Tom Cruise is still Tom Cruise, and he's riding in the desert. Finally, I don't think this movie really started a dark universe. I mean, sure, you got Jekyll and Hyde. Sure, you got the Mummy. And sure, you got that one scene where Tom Cruise is walking through the lab and he sees a vampire skull and a limb from the creature of the Black Lagoon. But there's no reference to anything on the outside world other than some cryptic dialogue. Alright, maybe they're not doing a shared universe like Marvel and DC does with a bunch of crossovers. What we might be getting is a series of remakes of classic horror monsters, and Jekyll and Hyde pop in here every once in a while to kind of carry us along. But as horror fans, we've been looking for a shared universe like Marvel and DC for a long time. Heck, Universal made that. Bela Lugosi, Abbott Costello, Meet the Wolfman, they've been doing shared universes for a while. They were the first ones to do it. So why not do it here? And at least give some reference. Jekyll gets a phone call, happens to be from a man named Victor Frankenstein. Or he gets a letter from a Professor Van Helsing. Or he gets a document that says the scientist actually accomplished what he set out to achieve. Problem is, no one can see him. No one can find him. Reference to the Invisible Man. Something to actually set up the outside world and this outside universe that they're creating. So that's what I would have done. And that's it. That's The Mummy, the good, the bad, and what I would have done. Honestly, The Mummy felt like it was a trial run. Universal doesn't really know yet what type of structure they want their future monster movies to be, so they're putting everything in the kitchen sink into this one, horror, action, they're putting everything structurally, thematically into this one. They're going to look at the critics and the reviews, they're going to see what works and what doesn't, and then they're just going to adjust and adapt for the future movies. That's a big gamble, because, yes, okay, that means the future movie can't be any worse because you set the bar so low. Problem is, because the bar is low, expectations are low, and people may not just show up for the movie. I'm hoping for the best. Again, I'm a little biased. I want it to succeed, and I just hope they kind of fix the flaws that they have with this one. The next one I hear is going to be The Bride of Frankenstein. Peculiar choice, but, it's got Javier Bardem in it, and you really can't go wrong. If you're interested in horror, please visit my website at danielconyers.com. I've got short stories in horror. I've got a feature-length horror screenplay. And also keep a lookout for my debut novel, Owen of Anthea in the Warlock's Curse. Ironically, it's not actually horror, but still a good read. It'll be out on Amazon August 12th. This next video I'm going to do is going to be on It Comes at Night. Really looking forward to this one. It's another horror, but this one looks like it's a true horror movie. So thank you very much for watching. Please leave a comment below if you like this movie, or if there's maybe another one you want me to do on. I'd be more than happy to. And if you didn't like this video, then there's nothing I can do for you.